I never thought the words would come out of her mouth. Not from Emma. Not from the woman who once told me I was the only man she'd ever love. But there she was, standing in the doorway of our kitchen, arms crossed, her lips pressed together like she was bracing for an explosion. "I want to talk," she said quietly. "About us." It was the way she said it that made my stomach twist. That low, careful tone. I knew something was coming, but I never could have guessed what. I set down my coffee, leaned against the counter, and waited. She took a deep breath, looking everywhere but at me. "Have you ever thought, maybe we'd be happier if we didn't limit ourselves?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" Her eyes finally met mine. "If we opened the marriage. Just gave each other freedom. To see other people. Without lies. Without sneaking around." There was a silence between us then, heavier than any argument we'd ever had. My mind raced. I kept waiting for her to laugh, to say she was joking. But she didn't. She stood there, waiting, like this was reasonable. Like this was normal. "Is there someone?" I asked. She hesitated. "No. I mean, not really. I just think it's something couples explore. We could set rules. Boundaries. It doesn't have to mean anything. I still love you." I felt something fracture inside me. A hairline crack, barely visible, but I knew it was there. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But something in her eyes, it wasn't guilt. It wasn't excitement. It was relief. Like a woman who'd finally found an excuse she could live with. "When did you start thinking about this?" I asked quietly. She shifted on her feet. "A few months ago. A few months ago." The phrase echoed in my head, tracing back through time. That was around the same time she started working late. Started spending weekends with the girls more often. Started sleeping with her phone under her pillow. I nodded slowly, pretending I was processing. But inside, my heart was beating like a war drum. "Okay," I said. "Let's talk about it. What are you hoping to get out of this?" She looked surprised, maybe even a little grateful. "Just honesty. Openness. Freedom. It doesn't have to change how we are. It's just an expansion. I want to be real with you. I don't want secrets. No secrets." The irony of it nearly made me laugh. But I swallowed it down. "All right," I said, forcing a calm I didn't feel. "We'll talk about rules. But not tonight. I need to think." She nodded, stepped forward, and kissed my cheek. "Thank you for being open-minded." As she walked upstairs, I stayed frozen. Open-minded. Was that what this was? Or was I just the last to know? That night, while she slept soundly beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my mind unraveling every late night, every cancelled plan, every guarded glance at her phone. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't paranoia. It was knowing. A deep, sick knowing. And I realized something else, too. If she was already asking for permission, she had already crossed the line. The next morning, I woke up before she did. Made coffee. Sat at the table, scrolling through old photos of us. Smiling at weddings. Laughing on road trips. Her head on my shoulder, eyes full of a kind of trust that felt ancient now. I set the phone down. I had a choice, confront her, or play along. And in that moment, I chose the latter. Not because I agreed. Not because I wanted it. But because I needed to know the truth. Over the next week, I played the part of the curious husband. I read articles. I asked her about what rules she'd want. We talked about boundaries, about communication, about how we'd stay safe and respectful. She seemed lighter. Like a weight had lifted off her. And every smile she gave me, every casual touch, every reassured, "This doesn't change us," it felt like a knife turning deeper. One night, after she went to bed, I took her phone while she slept. My hands were trembling, but my mind was clear. I didn't even have to guess her password. I knew her too well. I went straight to her messages. It was worse than I imagined. Not one man. Not even 2. 3. 3 different names. Conversations going back months. Plans. Can't wait to see you again. Pictures I couldn't bring myself to open. Words that weren't for me. And buried between the flirtations were confirmations. Did he suspect? One message read. No, she had replied. He actually agreed to open it up. It's perfect. Perfect. The phone slipped from my hand onto the carpet. I stared at it like it was something rotten. Something crawling with betrayal. She had never wanted openness. She wanted permission for what she was already doing. I sat there until the sun came up. Until I heard her stir upstairs, stretching, humming softly as she woke. That sound used to make me smile. Now it made my chest ache. When she came down, she found me at the table, coffee cold, eyes tired. You okay? She asked gently. I looked up at her. At the woman I had loved since I was 25. At the woman I thought was my future. And I smiled. A small, bitter thing. Yeah, I said quietly. Let's talk more about this open marriage. Because if she wanted openness, I was about to show her exactly what that meant. I don't know what kind of man I became in those days after reading her messages. I wasn't angry in the way I'd imagined. I wasn't throwing things or shouting or packing bags. It was quieter than that. A cold, steady kind of clarity settled over me. Like someone who's been underwater too long and suddenly breaks the surface, gasping but seeing everything for what it is. Emma kept smiling that week. Kept brushing my shoulder when she walked past. Kept texting late at night, only now she didn't bother to hide the grin that played on her lips when the screen lit up. She thought she'd won. I let her think it. Hey, she said one evening, curling up beside me on the couch. Are you sure you're okay with this? I mean, if you're not comfortable, we don't have to rush. I turned to her, let my hand rest lightly on her knee. Emma, I love you. I trust you. If this is what makes you happy, I want to make it work. Her eyes softened. She kissed me. Thank you. Thank you. I almost laughed at the word. That night, after she went to sleep, I opened my laptop. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for at first. But somewhere deep down, I knew I couldn't just sit in this house playing the fool. If she wanted to rewrite the rules, I was going to learn the game. I signed up for a dating app. A silly, impulsive thing at first, a way to, I don't know, feel something, prove something. But I didn't expect anything to come of it. Until I matched with her. Her name was Lily. A simple profile, one photo of her sitting in a coffee shop, book in hand, hair pulled back, no filters. Her bio just said, looking for real conversations. I messaged her, half expecting no reply. But within minutes, she answered. And what started as curiosity turned into something else. We talked. About music, about movies, about childhood fears. She wasn't like the women I saw on Emma's phone, no bold selfies, no flirty emojis. She asked questions. She listened. She told me she'd just gotten out of a rough relationship, wasn't looking for drama. I told her I wasn't either. And for the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about Emma. At least not until I closed the laptop and turned to see Emma standing in the doorway. Late night, she asked playfully, rubbing her eyes. Just couldn't sleep, I lied. She smiled. Maybe we should get you out of the house sometime. Go on a practice date. Practice. The word tasted bitter on my tongue. Maybe, I said. You first. She grinned, stepping closer. Already planning something this weekend. Of course she was. As she climbed back into bed, I sat in the dark a little longer, thinking about Lily. About the quiet warmth in her words, the lack of pretense. And I wondered, was it wrong that part of me felt alive again? The weekend came. Emma left in a swirl of perfume and high heels, blowing a kiss over her shoulder as she grabbed her bag. Wish me luck, she laughed. I watched her drive away. And then I picked up my phone. Hey, I texted Lily. You want to meet for coffee? It wasn't revenge. Not really. It wasn't a game anymore. It was survival. She answered almost immediately. Sure. Where? We met at a small cafe downtown. Nothing fancy. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, no makeup, hair pulled into a loose braid. And when she smiled at me, it wasn't coy or calculated. It was shy. Genuine. You look nervous, she said softly. I probably am, I admitted. She stirred her tea, watching me. Bad breakup. Not exactly, I said. It's complicated. She nodded like she understood. Isn't it always? And somehow, just sitting there across from her, sipping coffee, listening to the rain outside, I felt more seen than I had in months. We talked for hours. I told her about my job, my childhood, the books I used to love. She told me about her travels, her stubborn cat, the garden she wanted to start. And as the sky darkened outside, I realized I wasn't watching the clock. I should get home, I said finally, checking the time. She smiled softly. Thanks for meeting me. As I walked her to her car, she paused before getting in. I know you're not really available, she said gently. And that's okay. I wasn't expecting anything. I swallowed. I didn't expect this. She reached out, squeezed my hand once, then climbed in and drove away. I stood there in the rain for a moment, feeling something strange stir inside me. Hope? Guilt? Maybe both. When I got home, Emma wasn't back yet. Her lipstick was still sitting on the bathroom counter, her perfume lingering in the air. And as I sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through my messages with Lily, I wondered. Was I the bad guy now? Or was I just finally playing by the rules she'd written? An hour later, Emma stumbled in, cheeks flushed, hair tousled. Hey, baby, she called, kicking off her shoes. How was your night? Quiet, I said. You. She smiled a little too brightly. Fun. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow. And as she climbed into bed beside me, sighing contentedly, I realized something chilling. She didn't feel guilty. She didn't feel torn. She felt free. And for the first time since she'd asked for an open marriage, I realized. I wasn't just losing my wife. I was losing the version of myself that ever believed in her. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside her, listening to her steady breathing, wondering who she'd been with. Wondering if she was imagining him even now, curled up in our bed. I used to think love was trust. Now I wasn't sure what it was anymore. The next morning, she woke before me, humming softly as she made coffee. She didn't seem nervous or distant. If anything, she was radiant. Rejuvenated. Hey, sleepyhead, she said, setting a mug down beside me. You okay? I forced a smile. Yeah. Just tired. She sat on the edge of the bed, sipping her own coffee. So, do you want to talk about last night? Or? I looked at her carefully. Do you? She hesitated, biting her lip. It was nice. He was nice. We had dinner, talked, nothing crazy. I wondered if that was true. Wondered what nothing crazy meant in her mind. That's good, I said quietly. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. She gave me a small, grateful smile. And you? Did you? I took a sip of coffee. I met someone for coffee too. Her eyebrows lifted. Oh. Already? Wow, you work fast. I chuckled softly, though it felt hollow. It wasn't really a date. Just talking. Still, she said, leaning in to kiss my cheek, I'm proud of you. Proud. Another word that sat bitter in my chest. Over the next few weeks, this strange rhythm continued. She'd go out on her dates, though they didn't feel like dates anymore. They felt like something she'd been doing long before she ever asked for permission. And me? I kept seeing Lily. It wasn't physical. Not yet. We met for coffee, for walks in the park, for quiet dinners where I could breathe without pretending. She never pried, never pushed. She just listened. And in those moments, I felt more like myself than I ever did at home. Does she know you're seeing me? Lily asked once as we sat under a tree in the park, watching the sunset. She knows I'm meeting people, I admitted. But she doesn't ask details. Lily studied me quietly. And you? Do you still love her? The question hit harder than I expected. I stared at the sky for a long moment. I don't know. I think I love who she used to be. Or maybe who I thought she was. Lily nodded, pulling her knees to her chest. That's a hard thing to lose. Yeah, I whispered. It is. One evening, Emma came home late, later than usual. Her makeup was smudged, her hair messy, but she was glowing. Hey, she breathed, slipping off her heels. Sorry I'm so late. Things ran longer than I thought. I watched her quietly from the couch. Everything okay? She laughed softly. Better than okay. She leaned over to kiss me, a quick peck on the lips. We should go away sometime soon. Just the two of us. Reconnect. Reconnect. I nodded slowly. Sure. Let's plan something. But even as I said it, I knew the connection she was talking about was already gone. That night, after she fell asleep, I checked her phone again. I hated myself for it. But curiosity, or maybe self-preservation, pushed me forward. The same names. The same patterns. The same lies wrapped in half-truths. Only this time, a new message caught my eye. From a contact simply named R. Wish you could stay over tonight. Miss you already. And her reply. Soon, babe. He's still playing along but won't be forever. My chest tightened. Playing along. I stared at those words until they blurred. All this time, I thought I was the one observing her. Watching her game unfold. But she knew. She always knew. And she was waiting. Waiting for me to break. Waiting for me to leave. Waiting for the moment she could justify walking away without guilt. The next morning, she was cheerful. Making pancakes, singing to the radio. Acting like we were newlyweds again. I was thinking, she said as she flipped a pancake, maybe we should have a dinner party. Invite some of your friends, some of mine. Just blend things a little. Show them how mature we're being. I swallowed hard. A dinner party? Yeah. We can show them we're fine. That this is healthy. That we're thriving. I stared at her. Thriving. It hit me then, this wasn't just about her freedom. This was about appearances. About control. About painting a picture she could live with, even if it wasn't real. I'll think about it, I said softly. She turned, gave me that bright, practiced smile. You're amazing, you know that. I nodded faintly. Yeah. Later that day, I met Lily again. This time, we sat in her tiny apartment, drinking tea on her worn couch. You seem tired, she observed gently. I am, I admitted. It's like, every day I wake up and put on a mask. And every night I wonder if I'll ever take it off. She touched my hand lightly. You don't have to keep doing this. I know, I said. But part of me. I'm scared to let go. Scared of starting over. Scared of losing the life I thought I built. Lily looked into my eyes. Sometimes holding on hurts more than letting go. Her words sat between us, heavy and true. When I left that evening, she hugged me tight, longer than usual. And as I drove home, her warmth lingered in my chest like a quiet ember. Emma was already asleep when I walked in. Her phone buzzed softly on the nightstand, a message lighting up the screen. Miss you tonight. I didn't read the rest. I turned off the light, lay down beside her, and stared into the dark. And for the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a future where this bed was empty. A future where I didn't have to pretend anymore. A future where love didn't come with conditions and negotiations and half-truths. A future where I could breathe. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of peace. I woke up the next morning feeling empty. But it wasn't the hollow ache I'd grown used to. It was quieter. Like something inside me had finally gone still after fighting for too long. Emma was already gone when I came downstairs. A note on the kitchen counter. Gone for brunch with our don't wait up. The heart at the end almost made me laugh. Or scream. Or both. I sat at the table, staring at the note, wondering how many versions of me she imagined existed. The loyal husband. The understanding partner. The fool. I crumpled the note, tossed it into the trash, and picked up my phone. "Can I see you today?" I texted Lily. She replied within seconds. "Of course. Come over." Her apartment felt like another world. Small, cluttered, warm. Plants crowding the windowsill, mismatched mugs on the coffee table, a quilt draped over the couch. A place built from small, honest pieces. She opened the door in leggings and an oversized sweater, her hair piled messily on top of her head. She smiled softly. "Rough morning." I stepped inside, letting the door close behind me. She left me a note. Told me not to wait up. Lily's expression shifted, a shadow passing through her eyes. "I'm sorry." I sat on the couch, my hands gripping my knees. "I don't even know what I'm doing anymore." She knelt in front of me, resting her hands on mine. "You're surviving." I looked down at her. "It doesn't feel like surviving. It feels like losing." She hesitated, then asked quietly, "Have you thought about leaving?" I exhaled slowly. "Every day. But then I think about everything we built. The house. The memories. The people who see us as this perfect couple. Walking away feels like admitting I failed." "Maybe staying," she said gently, "is what's keeping you from becoming who you're meant to be." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Instead, I stayed with her that day. We watched old movies, ate leftover pizza, shared silences that didn't feel heavy. And for a few hours, the weight of my marriage faded into the background. When evening came, I stood at her door, reluctant to leave. "You don't have to go back," she said softly. But I shook my head. "Not yet." She kissed my cheek. "You're stronger than you think." I wasn't so sure. When I got home, Emma was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up as I entered, her smile automatic. "Hey, you. Good day." "Yeah," I said flatly. She patted the cushion beside her. "Come sit." I hesitated, then sat down, leaving a small space between us. She leaned against me anyway, her head on my shoulder. "I wants to meet you sometime," she murmured. My stomach twisted. "Meet me?" "Yeah. He thinks it'd be healthy. You know, transparency, no secrets." I swallowed hard. "You mean, no more secrets?" She chuckled lightly, not catching the edge in my voice. "Exactly." I stared at the TV, not really seeing it. Meet him. The men she'd been sneaking around with for who knows how long. The men she called babe in messages. The men who told her he missed her at night. "You're okay with that?" I asked quietly. She lifted her head, looking at me earnestly. "I want us to be okay. I want this to work. But it only works if we're honest." "Right." I forced a nod. "Right." But inside, something cracked. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, listening to her soft breaths, wondering what honesty even meant anymore. The next morning, as she left for work, I found myself standing in our bedroom, looking around at the framed photos, the souvenirs from trips, the bed we shared. I wondered how much of it was real. I wondered how much of it could ever be real again. I called Lily. "Can we talk?" I asked. "Of course," she said. "Come over." When I arrived, she was waiting at the door, concern etched across her face. "What happened?" she asked. I stepped inside, running a hand through my hair. "She wants me to meet him." Lily's eyes widened. "Why?" "She says it's about honesty. About blending our lives." I let out a bitter laugh. "Like we're all supposed to hold hands and sing songs together." Lily touched my arm gently. "That's not love. That's control." I sank onto her couch, covering my face with my hands. "I don't know what to do." She sat beside me. You have a choice. Stay and keep bleeding. Or leave and start healing. I looked at her, really looked at her. The quiet strength in her eyes. The patience. The kindness. I don't even know who I am without her, I whispered. You're more than what she made you, Lily said softly. You're more than the version of you she needs to keep her story clean. The words sank deep, unsettling and freeing all at once. I stayed longer than I meant to. We talked, we sat in silence, we shared a simple dinner. And when I finally stood to leave, Lily hugged me tight, whispering, "You deserve better." Driving home, her words echoed in my mind. When I pulled into the driveway, Emma's car was already there. I sat in my car for a long moment, staring at the house. Our house. The life inside it. The life I wasn't sure belonged to me anymore. I stepped inside. Emma was in the kitchen, wine glass in hand, humming softly. She turned when she saw me, smiling brightly. "Guess what?" "What?" I asked warily. "I told her you'd meet him next week. He's really excited." I stared at her. "You decided that for me?" She blinked, then laughed lightly. "I thought you'd be fine. You've been so understanding. I knew you'd be okay." I swallowed hard. "Emma, do you even love me anymore?" The question stopped her. For the first time in weeks, her smile faltered. She set down her glass, walking toward me slowly. "Of course I love you," she said softly. "Why would you even ask that?" I held her gaze. "Because I don't recognize the way you're loving me anymore." She paused, her lips parting as if to speak, then closing again. And for a long, heavy moment, we stood in the kitchen, the silence between us louder than anything she could have said. I turned away first, heading upstairs without another word. Behind me, I heard her whisper faintly, "I'm trying, you know." But I wasn't sure anymore if trying was enough. Not for her. Not for me. Not for what we used to be. The next few days passed in a fog. Every interaction with Emma felt rehearsed. Like we were actors in a play we didn't remember auditioning for. She was affectionate, attentive, even playful at times. But underneath it all, I felt the quiet hum of calculation. Like she was waiting for me to cross some invisible line. And I couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said that night. "I'm trying, you know. Trying to save us." Or trying to make herself feel less guilty. I couldn't tell anymore. One evening, she came home with a bottle of wine and takeout from our favorite restaurant. "Date night," she announced cheerfully, setting the food on the table. I watched her as she lit candles, poured the wine, arranged the plates. A picture of a happy wife. A loving partner. But I couldn't shake the message I'd read. He's still playing along, but won't be forever. That wasn't the voice of a woman trying to save a marriage. That was the voice of someone waiting for the right moment to walk away without blame. We ate in near silence, her smile growing tighter with every minute I didn't mirror it. "You're quiet tonight," she finally said, sipping her wine. "Just tired," I replied. She tilted her head. "Tired of me?" I met her gaze. "Tired of pretending." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "I'm not pretending." "Aren't you?" I asked quietly. For a moment, I thought she might confess. Might drop the act. But instead, she pushed her plate away and stood. "I don't know what you want from me anymore," she said, her voice trembling. "I wanted us," I said. "But I don't know if that's even possible now." She looked at me then, really looked. And for a fleeting second, I saw something raw in her eyes. Regret. Sadness. Or just fear of being caught. "I told you," she whispered, "I need more. I can't be everything you want. And you can't be everything I want. That's why this works." I shook my head slowly. "Does it?" She didn't answer. Instead, she left the room, the sound of her footsteps fading upstairs. I sat alone at the table, staring at the flickering candle. And I realized something that chilled me to the bone. She didn't want me to stay. She wanted me to leave. So she wouldn't have to be the villain. The next day, I met Lily again. We sat in her kitchen, sipping tea, the radio playing softly in the background. She wants you to end it, Lily said quietly after I told her everything. So she can walk away clean. I know, I said. But why not just leave herself? Because then she's the one who gave up, Lily replied. And she doesn't want to carry that guilt. She wants you to break first. I leaned back, rubbing my eyes. I don't want to be the bad guy. You're not, Lily said firmly. You're the one holding it together longer than anyone should. I looked at her. What if I'm holding on because I'm scared of what's next? She smiled softly. That's human. But sometimes letting go isn't failure. It's survival. Her words sat with me long after I left. That night, as I lay beside Emma, staring at the ceiling, I felt a strange sense of calm. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was done. The next morning, I packed a small bag. Just enough clothes for a few days. My laptop. My toothbrush. When Emma came downstairs, she froze at the sight of it by the door. What's this? She asked quietly. I'm leaving, I said simply. Her eyes widened. What? Why? I looked at her, tired and hollow. Because you've already left. You just didn't walk out the door. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered. I nodded. But you did. She stepped closer, reaching out. Can we fix this? I hesitated. For a heartbeat, I wanted to say yes. To cling to the hope that maybe, somehow, we could claw our way back. But deep down, I knew the truth. I don't think we can, I said quietly. Her hand fell to her side. Her eyes filled with tears. But she didn't ask me to stay. And that told me everything. I picked up my bag, walked to the door. Where will you go? She called softly. I paused. I don't know yet. And I stepped outside. The air felt different. Cooler. Cleaner. For the first time in a long time. I felt free. I stayed with Lily that night. We didn't talk much. Just sat on the couch, her head on my shoulder, the TV playing quietly. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. The next morning, as we shared coffee in the quiet dawn, she looked at me and smiled. You look lighter, she said. I feel it, I admitted. Do you think you'll go back? She asked carefully. I shook my head. No. I think. I finally walked far enough I can't turn around. She nodded. Good. We sat in silence for a while, watching the sun climb higher. And I realized something. Leaving wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning. A terrifying, uncertain, beautiful beginning. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. It's strange how silence feels different in a new place. The first morning waking up in Lily's apartment, I noticed it immediately, not the heavy, stifling quiet of my old house, but something gentler. Like the world wasn't holding its breath around me anymore. Lily was already awake, sitting cross-legged by the window with a mug of tea. She smiled when she saw me. Sleep okay? She asked. I nodded, rubbing my eyes. Better than I thought. She patted the spot next to her. Come watch the sunrise. I sat beside her, our knees touching, watching the sky bleed from soft gray to pale gold. It's beautiful, I said quietly. You're seeing it again, she replied. That's something. We sat in peaceful silence until my phone buzzed on the table. I hesitated before picking it up. Emma, can we talk today? I stared at the message. Is it her? Lily asked gently. Yeah. I put the phone down, exhaling. She wants to talk. Lily studied me. Do you want to? I thought about it. The old me would have jumped at the chance. Would have seen it as a way back, a sign of hope. But now. I think I need to hear her out, I said slowly. For closure. Or whatever's left of it. Lily nodded. Then go. But don't let her pull you under again. Her words stayed with me as I drove to the house. It didn't feel like home anymore. Emma opened the door before I could knock, her face pale, eyes rimmed with red. Thanks for coming, she said softly. I stepped inside. The air felt different, heavier, somehow. We sat at the kitchen table. She pushed a cup of coffee toward me, but I didn't touch it. I don't know how to start, she said quietly. Try the truth, I replied. She winced. Okay. The truth. She took a deep breath. I thought an open marriage would save us. I really did. I thought, if I could have both, I wouldn't have to choose. I could keep you and still feel alive. I swallowed hard. And did it work? Tears welled in her eyes. No. It didn't. All it did was make me realize I'd already left you a long time ago. The words cut deeper than I expected. Then why didn't you tell me? I asked. She looked down at her hands. Because I wanted to believe it wasn't true. Because I didn't want to be the one who broke us. A bitter laugh escaped me. So you waited for me to do it instead. Her lips trembled. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, I said, voice steady. Over and over. She wiped her eyes. I know. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. We sat in silence. Finally, she looked at me, her gaze clear. I won't fight you if you want a divorce. I nodded slowly. I do. A tear slid down her cheek. Okay. And just like that, it was decided. No screaming. No begging. No dramatic last-minute confessions. Just quiet resignation. I hope you find happiness, she whispered. I hope you do too, I replied. I stood, feeling the weight of years lift off my shoulders. As I walked to the door, she called after me. Will you hate me? I paused. No, I said softly. But I don't think I'll ever understand you. She didn't answer. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. The sky was bright now, clouds drifting lazily overhead. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt free. When I got back to Lily's, she opened the door with a quiet smile. Well, she asked. It's over, I said. Really over. She pulled me into a hug, holding me tight. I'm proud of you, she murmured. I let out a shaky breath. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do now. Whatever you want, she said simply. You get to choose now. The words settled into me like warm light. That evening, we sat on the balcony, watching city lights flicker to life below. You know what's funny? I said quietly. What? I thought leaving her would break me. But it feels like I'm finally whole again. Lily leaned her head on my shoulder. Sometimes you have to lose something to find yourself. We sat in peaceful silence, the night wrapping around us like a soft blanket. And for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't bracing for the next lie. I wasn't questioning my worth. I was simply here. Alive. Starting over. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. In the weeks that followed, I learned something I hadn't expected. Freedom isn't loud. It's quiet. It doesn't come crashing through the door with fireworks. It seeps in, gently, like sunlight through half-closed blinds. Each morning felt a little lighter. Each night, a little softer. I found a rhythm at Lily's place. It wasn't meant to be permanent, we both knew that. But for now, it was exactly what I needed. A place to breathe. A place to remember who I'd been before everything fell apart. One Saturday morning, I stood by the window, watching the world wake up below. Lily joined me, handing me a cup of coffee. You're quiet today, she said. I smiled faintly. Just thinking. About her. I shook my head. About me. That surprised her. Yeah. I sipped the coffee, feeling the warmth spread through me. For the first time in a long time. I don't feel like a failure. She leaned against the wall, watching me. You never were. I thought I was, I admitted. I thought if I couldn't make it work, it meant I wasn't enough. Lily's eyes softened. That's not how love works. Or life. I met her gaze. I know that now. Later that day, I went back to the house one last time. Emma wasn't there. I'd told her I'd be by to collect the last of my things. Walking through those rooms felt surreal. Every corner carried a memory. A ghost of laughter. A shadow of arguments whispered into pillows at night. I packed slowly, deliberately. No rush. No anger. When I reached the bedroom, I paused by the nightstand. There, tucked beneath a book, was a note. I unfolded it. Recognized her handwriting instantly. I hope someday you can forgive me. I hope you find the love you deserve. Thank you for trying harder than I ever did. I read it twice. Then folded it again and slipped it into my pocket. I didn't know if I could forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But for the first time, I felt peace. When I closed the door behind me for the last time, I didn't look back. I drove to the park. Sat on a bench beneath an old oak tree. Watched families play. Couples walk hand in hand. Kids chasing each other through fallen leaves. And I realized something. Life goes on. Not in spite of heartbreak, but alongside it. Grief and hope. Regret and renewal. They coexist. They weave together into something messy and beautiful and achingly human. A text buzzed on my phone. Lily, dinner at 7. My treat. I smiled. Looking forward to it. I leaned back, letting the sun warm my face. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I felt ready. Ready to live. Ready to love again. But most importantly, ready to love myself. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be lonely nights. Doubt. Memories that stung at the edges of joy. But I also knew something deeper. I'd survived. I'd faced the truth. And I'd chosen me. That wasn't failure. That was freedom. As the wind stirred the leaves around me, I closed my eyes and whispered, softly, to no one in particular. I'm okay. And this time, I meant it.